Dizzy Anxious Dizzy cycle expansion. I know that's maybe why a lot of you are here. You'll see on Instagram or other places on the internet, people say I'm dizzy and then it makes me anxious and then I get more dizzy and more anxious and I don't know what's what. And they call it the dizzy anxious dizzy cycle. So let's actually unpack what that is and how we can intervene because based on how I just described it, you don't really have information to know what to do. So I see people who come to me have vulnerable nervous systems. Maybe they are pushing themselves too hard. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not listening to cues of their body whispering that this is too much until there's a stressor and then their body starts to scream. So I've seen kind of the last straw for a vulnerable nervous system be a breakup, a divorce, moving, a loss of a loved one, working in a really stressful job, generally not taking care of yourself, not sleeping well, not eating well. There's an initial dizziness or vertigo episode. It doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, that leads to this cycle. So, the trauma of that initial experience, because we're perceiving it as dangerous, we don't know what it is, it feels very out of control. That gets stored in the body, and we start to scan for that happening again, which is normal. It's a survival mechanism. The problem is when the dizziness or vertigo wasn't actually dangerous, it becomes kind of we kind of misattribute um, the sensations as dangerous. And that's really what perpetuates the cycle. So that trauma gets stored in the body. We start scanning for it happening again, whether or not we know it. And that can be in your body or it can be in your environment for things that you associate with that initial experience. We develop a narrative around what it means. What does that mean? Does that mean I have a brain tumor? Does that mean I have some terrible autoimmune condition? Does that mean I'm not going to be able to do the things I want to do? I'm not going to be able to be the mom that I want or be the career woman or whatever that looks like. That leads to rumination and catastrophizing. That rumination, that going over that over and over and over, is building those neural networks in a negative way. It's called negative plasticity. And we continue to ruminate because we think we're getting control over the situation. We're trying to problem solve our bodily sensations cognitively, and it never works. Um, and so we kind of get a dopamine hit by like, I'm going to think through this. I didn't think of this. I didn't think of this. I need to see this doctor and try this, and this. Meanwhile, you're completely ignoring the issue at hand, which is the fear itself. Then we start avoiding movements. So that might be avoiding going to the grocery store or turning our head in certain ways or going in the car or whatever it is for you that you have deemed unsafe. And that decompensates our vestibular system. So it's a use it or lose it. If we're not using it, then those neural networks start to atrophy or go away because we don't need them, right? Our behavior and our thoughts are what teaches our brain what's important. Um, then we're in this cycle of avoidance and rumination, and our bodies are always listening. So our bodies are hearing danger, danger, danger. I need to be ready in this fight or flight state. So this stress chemistry is pumping. That cortisol and adrenaline is constantly pumping. And our bodies start preferencing stress hormones over sex hormones. Meaning, if you are in this state of survival, this state of constant danger, we're not going to be reproducing, right? It doesn't make sense. So we end up with this dysregulated, imbalanced stress versus sex hormones, which leads to chronic inflammation. And number nine, which is this vicious cycle of depletion. So being in that constant state of stress leads to nutrient deficiencies, chronic inflammation, cell danger response, which is a fascinating topic that I cover in the course. Central sensitization. So we become really sensitive to all of the environmental stimuli, lights, sounds, smells, barometric pressure changes, temperature, meds, supplements, food, all the things. I know you are all very sensitive and I'm sensitive as well, but I've come a very long way with those sensitivities. That makes our bodies vulnerable to things like mold, things like heavy metals, Things like chronic infections. Our terrain is not set up to deal with the inundation of environmental toxins that we all have, and we end up in this really depleted and vulnerable state. We have a loss of our identity. We don't know what's important anymore. Who am I? Who was I? Am I the person that I was? What do I do? What's important to me? And so we end up again in this vicious cycle. And I see this cycle happen quickly. I mean, within weeks to months, people can get into this depleted state. And the goal with the course is to really unpack all of these different areas of intervention so you can actually break this cycle for good.